Guys, it looks like Gamergate 2 is upon us. And this definitely wasn't on my bingo card for 2024. But if you think about it, the timing actually makes a lot of sense. So in a certain sense, I feel like pop culture crisis wouldn't exist if Gamergate had never happened. It's all, time is a flat circle. Gamergate preceded Trump's election in 2016. And now we have Gamergate 2.0 leading up to the 2024 election cycle. Time is a flat circle. It all makes sense. It's all a huge conspiracy. But you guys have been requesting for us to talk about the implosion of Sweet Baby Inc. And I'll try to summarize it for you now. This was a woke DEI consulting firm for game studios. And they basically advise you on how to make your video game very inclusive and woke and politically correct and everything.
A narrative consultancy firm, correct?
Yeah, make all of the female characters ugly half lesbians and stuff like that. And that's their job. So the co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc. was caught on video in a public speech admitting to the fact that they use fear tactics and weaponize cancel culture against potential clients that are gaming studios. And basically the advice is, you know, if they don't want to pay us for our services, you take them out to coffee and you terrify them with the threat that the internet will attack them for their video game not being inclusive enough.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
Ooh. Okay, so they're using cancel culture to stay in business, basically. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure who exactly broke this story. It just seems like a lot of independent creators and YouTubers are talking about this, and it's blowing up right now. And it's kind of snowballing into something that would resemble Gamergate 2.0, but unlike the OG Gamergate, I don't know who's going to come out on top. It turns out that now the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are turning their attention to investigating extremist gamers. With the help of important video game companies like Roblox, as well as Discord and Reddit, which they describe as a social media platform that is often used by gaming culture.
Coordinating with the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security to root out so-called domestic violent extremist content, according to a new government report, noting that mechanisms have been established with social media companies to police extremism. The report recommends that the national security agencies establish new and similar processes with the vast gaming industry. The exact nature of the cooperation between federal agencies and video game companies, which has not been previously reported, is detailed in a new Government Accountability Office report. The report draws on interviews conducted with 5 gaming and social media companies, including Roblox, an online gaming platform, Discord, a social media app commonly used by gamers, Reddit, as well as a game publisher and a social media company that asked the GAO to remain anonymous.
Isn't that cowardly?
Yes.
I mean, there are video game companies that are remaining unnamed, they're remaining anonymous while working with the FBI to put their own customers in federal prison. Basically.
I love the nebulous and just never-ending bloat that comes from something like this. I still remember something from a couple of years ago about how the government awarded like $700,000 to fight online video game extremism. But here's the good. It says the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security have mechanisms to share and receive domestic violent extremism threat-related information with social media and gaming companies, the GAO says. The report reveals that the DHS Intelligence Office meets with gaming companies and that the companies can use the meetings to, quote, share information with INA, DHS's intelligence office, about online activities promoting domestic violent extremism or simply activities that violate the company's terms of service. Well, there's a lot of things that could be beyond just, you know, threatening the fabric of Western society.
Obviously, terms of service for private companies don't have anything to do with criminal offenses.
Through its 56 field offices and hundreds of resident agencies, subordinate field offices, the FBI receives tips from gaming companies of potential law-breaking and extremist views. That's just
like, as a gamer, why would you patronize any of these huge companies like Blizzard or Roblox or any of these companies anymore, especially Discord, by the way, which is a communication platform? Why would you patronize any of these private companies when they just admitted that they are trying to give tips to the federal government on your private communications based on your political beliefs.
I also love this part that basically says that they have no idea what they want or what they're doing. The GAO warns that the FBI and the DHS lack an overarching strategy to bring its work with gaming companies in line with broader agency missions. Without a strategy or goals, the agency may not fully be aware of how effective their communications are with companies. The left hand is talking to the right hand, and neither one knows what the other one is doing.
The FBI is about as efficient as the DMV. So,
or how effective their information sharing mechanisms serve the agencies, serve their overall missions, it says. The report ends with a recommendation that both agencies develop such a strategy, a recommendation that DHS concurred with, providing an estimated completion date of June 28th of this year. All I can think about is the awful track record the FBI has when it comes to identifying extremism, Hassan Piker says.
Why is Hassan Piker being cited here?
They're much better at finding vulnerable teenagers with mental disabilities to take advantage of it, he says.
I don't even want to think about Hassan Piker. Let me turn all of your attention to another piece of this, which is so interesting. There is a nonprofit organization called Take This that actually happens to be funded by the Department of Homeland Security. And they are an organization dedicated to mental wellness in the gaming industry. I have no idea what that means. I guess when you get laid off from your gaming studio, they're going to provide you therapy resources or something. So apparently they have released, they have released an official press statement about Gamergate 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, and here's what they have to say. If you're reading this, you've probably been hearing about what's going to be called Gamergate 2. It's the latest targeted harassment campaign in the game industry, and it's aimed at Sweet Baby Inc., a Montreal-based narrative development studio. The campaign also has been impacting entities and games associated with Sweet Baby, journalists covering the issue, and others associated in various ways with the targets. You also may be at a loss to know how to talk about this issue and what, if anything, you can do about it. That's where we come in. Discord, Steam, and X have been the predominant platforms where the abuse and harassment has taken place. In these spaces, lists of game studios, companies, and organizations are being circulated for targeting by members of the mob. Large-scale harassment campaigns like this fuel and are fueled by political events. As political rhetoric heats up ahead of the U.S. presidential election this year, this kind of online activity is going to ramp up, and it's important to understand that these phenomena are interrelated. Scholars and journalists have noted the targeted harassment, hate, and cultural norms that were the heart of Gamergate in the mid-2010s never went away. People in game spaces, especially marginalized developers and content creators, face hate and harassment daily. In fact, research conducted by Take This has outlined an entire spectrum and typology of extremism and dark participation in games that is bigger than any one movement but underlies all of them. It can be scary or uncomfortable to think about, to talk about, and to understand. In overwhelming situations, it's not unusual to feel at a loss or to have thoughts of helplessness, but there are things we can do to mitigate the harm.
It is funny, too, because from what I remember, Sweet Baby Inc. isn't even an American company. I think it's Canadian.
The Canadian, yes.
Yeah. So, like, what does that even have to do with... Well, why is American government involved?
I think that this is a veiled threat where, we're going to be campaigning for your social media platforms to be censored because, the way that Gamergate kind of introduced the cultural environment for Trump to get elected, it's undeniable, right? I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I just feel like Gamergate, weirdly enough, even though so many people haven't even heard of it, it really created at least the environment on the internet that we needed for the meme magic of the Trump election.
I don't know if memetics even become as big of a part of culture without Gamergate.
Right, exactly. I feel like it kicked off everything, and butterfly effect. brought us to this point.
And a lot of this has to do with the fact that Sweet Baby Inc. is now campaigning against the Steam curation group that is Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, which just curates all the games in which Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on so that you as a consumer can know whether or not you want to purchase that game. And
that sounds like freedom of association.
Yep.
That sounds like consumer power.
And there are all these tweets from employees Chris Kindred and Maya Kramer that display that they are very much that there's a lot of racism that goes on there. There's a lot of anti-white rhetoric. Obviously, Kim Belair and David Bedard, who are the founders of it, have these statements. The idea that you can't be racist to white people, which literally transported me back to the year 2018, hearing that phrase again, which I haven't heard in a long time. But there's a lot of these tweets from them saying, sorry, no one thing has changed. The number of people who understand the spreading misinformation just lets them be racist in public with no consequence has increased dramatically. That has changed. Probably requires some fighting from those with authority. Probably. This is all them discussing this situation. For example, Steam doesn't have guidelines for curators, as far as I can tell, that would prevent someone from starting a curation group that focuses on, say, Sweet Baby Inc. and warns people not to buy their game they're associated with, which could list games, any game at all. So they're saying, like, it could list any game, not just games from Sweet Baby Inc.
We got a $69 super chat from Jacob Edler. If Gamergate 2 actually becomes something big, you got to get Melanie Mack on the show ASAP and go on the offensive. Have a great week. R.I.P. Mr. Bokus.
Rest in peace, Mr. Bokus.
Rest in peace.
And here are some more of the tweets. This is from Maya Kramer. Pay me to shoot down your white male lead game ideas. Had a nightmare that I was a white male
I thought
gamer.
that was leading somewhere else than the way it was worded. Okay.
Then it says, I usually get grossed out when straight white rich people kiss, but even I think those two are pretty good.
Thank you. You know, I feel like this is going to be the N-word tweets, but for woke people.
Yeah.
You know, like this is when you pull up the N-word tweets, except it's all of their tweets about hating white people because they felt culturally empowered to do so.
Yep.
And then it's going to backfire on you, as it should.
Yep. Chris Kindred says, the Steam curator harassment group Sweet Baby Inc. detected a lead by this person. It says, here's them trying to be slick so they don't get reported. Even with the discriminatory language filed off, the group itself still fails the code of conduct.
Brett, I want to know, who do you think won the original Gamergate?
Nobody.
If anyone.
I think everybody loses in those situations.
Because when we were talking about Comicsgate, I think with Shane Davis maybe, like it seems like there's a definitive victory for Comicsgate and not for Gamergate.
I don't even know if that's true, because that's its own offshoot and they have their own stuff going on there.
It's difficult to tell. But
I look at all these things and I don't see winners and losers. I just see gradual societal shifts for different groups of people. So certainly the mainstream comic book industry isn't doing all that well, right?
Yeah, but the difference is the mainstream video game industry is doing enormously well and better than Hollywood.
Yep.
They're making more revenue than Hollywood. And with less resources also being used. So there's a bigger stake here, but also it remains kind of still seen as a subculture.
Yeah.
Right?
Hard to think of video games that way with the hold they have on society these days.
Right. But I guess it's still kind of seen as part of like nerd subcultures, right?
Yes.
Like
I don't.
And it's also still, I mean, statistically, it's male dominated if you don't count
Except
mobile
for
games.
Mobile gaming is
It's still,
overwhelmingly
it's
women.
much more male dominated, as is YouTube, as is Twitch, as is, you know, people who go to see movies in theaters in general. Like entertainment is like for the consumers, it's male dominated. And it seems like they're kind of done being bullied.
There was the quote from Kim Belair at an old speech where she says that white male gamers are basically like picky babies, and she's giving these speeches to like large groups of people, right?
And they're like, or.
Yeah. And it's hard to look at stuff like this. And again, I feel for all of these groups, whether it's comics, whether it's gaming, whether it's even the dudes who, the people who started the Fandom Menace, which was about Star Wars and all this stuff. A lot of it is this cultural battle back and forth for people. And I really, at the end of the day, I feel like nobody ends up winning, because I just saw a tweet from Neon on Twitter today. I reposted it, and somebody said earlier, I saw in the chat, I think, they said you guys should get Neon on here. They have a great, if you want a really good breakdown of the initial part of this story, he did a 31-minute video on the Clownfish TV channel about this. That's really, really good. And certainly other creators. This material is dense, and there's a lot to talk about here with people who are far more in it than we are, but it is culturally relevant. And what he said was basically, he says they want Star Wars without Lucas. They want Harry Potter without J.K. Rowling. They want Lord of the Rings without, Tolkien. And he's listing all these properties, right, that people want to control but not have the input of the original creators on. All of these cultures now are part of a world where they want to control it because it has social credit. It has a lot of push in society.
Right.
And they're not doing it for creative reasons. Certainly nothing being discussed here has anything to do with creativity or even what's good in gaming. It's all identity politics.
Even just the idea that Sweet Baby was using cancel culture as a fear tactic on their potential clients is so bizarre to me, because they would, over time see the example of Hogwarts Legacy. And they'd be like, oh, so everyone is going to be mad at us on the internet, but we're going to make millions of dollars. I think I'll go with that outcome. Thank you very much. Like, what is there to scare people with anymore? Like, people aren't scared anymore. It's over. Like, I think if all goes well, shit's going to hit the fan. And, these people who work at DEI consulting firms and nonprofits dedicated to mental health in the gaming industry and inclusivity and blah, blah, blah. All of these people, your time is up with the corporate card taking people to lunch. Like, get a real job, provide value to society. Like, you can't get retribution on the cool people forever. Move past high school.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.